Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so we are finished the picks and bans here. So we're going to comment on overall team comps, bans, anything like that. Again, we are focusing our advice towards a solo queue environment. This is not what is tournament viable. This is what you can use to influence the outcome of solo queue games. So you're going to have trolls, you're going to have AFKs, but that doesn't mean you need to just completely ignore what your team is doing. You still have to work with them. And that frustrates a lot of people. And honestly, if you get super frustrated by solo queue, it might not be the right place for you. You might want to focus on game modes like Earth, like ranked 5s even, like Dominion, like ARAM, Twisted Treeline. There are a lot of game modes, and there are a lot of fans of each type. So if you really do not enjoy the stress of solo queue, just a piece of advice, you might want to look at something else. But for now, we are going through picks and bans. Blue team has banned out Wukong, Pantheon, and Kassadin. I don't think Kassadin's worth the ban since his nerfs. Well, rework, aka nerfs. I haven't seen Kassadin do that well. I played one game where Kassadin did well, and it was literally just because he was outplaying the opponent. It wasn't because he was a strong champion anymore. That could be, though, because they picked the Vygar, but... Wait, the wrong team. Never mind. I just don't agree with Kassadin ban in general. I don't see a point to it. Especially on Riven mid. Either way. Other team has Thresh, Nasus, Kha'Zix banned. Good bans. Thresh still very, very potent in the bot lane. But overall, like, honestly, he's worth a ban. If you're playing someone like a Karma, who if you get hooked, you're dead, it's a pretty good ban. In terms of picks then, it looks like that's going to be a Riven mid, top lane Trundle, jungle Zac, and then bot lane is going to be a Caitlyn Blitzcrank. Blitzcrank is mediocre in the current meta. Thresh, Leona, there's just so many champions that do his job better. But as Requeen has commented a number of times, no one spoon feeds like a Blitzcrank. But Caitlyn doesn't have the damage to really follow up those grabs. Oftentimes, if you're grabbing onto a Caitlyn, Caitlyn goes, oh shit, what happened, and dies. You also have to be considerate when picking Blitzcrank. Can I grab on the enemy team without instantly killing my own team? So let's say the enemy team is an Amumu, I'm trying to think of examples here. Amumu, Draven, Malphite, Nasus, champions
Leona.
that Leona, if you're pulling champions onto you and they're like, oh, you grabbed me, awesome. Karthus is a great example in terms of mid laners, where you grab a Karthus and you're like, oh, well, great, we just killed my entire team. So you have to be mindful of that when picking Blitzcrank. It's not that he's a terrible pick, it's that he's outclassed, and he's team reliant and enemy comp reliant. Purple team has then picked up a Vygar mid running barrier. Great choice on the barrier. I really like seeing it picked up on mid laners. A top lane Quinn it looks to be, and then bot lane Jinx Karma. Jinx Karma is an amazing combo actually. You have crazy poke, crazy overlapping CC, and you can just set up a lot of plays. They then have a jungle Vi, who even after the nerfs is very, very potent, sets up a lot of kill potential.
The Vanguard pick is going to be really rough early and mid-game because there's no AP targets for him to target on the opposite team, unfortunately. That being said, late game, it doesn't really matter. Vanguard's a monster regardless, and his stun cage brings excellent utility.
For sure, and if Vygar can land a really good stun cage, that could set up a very potent engage from Vi by the Karma Mentored Q and by the Jinx Rocket. Quinn, unfortunately, is just kind of be doing her own split push thing, but if you land a really good stun, they have a decent amount of AoE. They have some pick potential to pick off whoever is fed on the enemy team. But yeah, Jinx Karma is just such a potent combination.
The Vi pick, I'm a really huge fan of. I've talked before about picking a jungle that synergizes with your team, and that jungle should try to solve problems. Without Vi, Purple Team would not have a really solid long-range initiation. Vi gives them, with her R and her Q, gives them that ability to go in on fights and really lock down the target, and with the damage from the rest of the team, that has a lot of really team fight potential. Especially with Karma, with Mantra E, a Quinn, with Bird Form. If Vi goes in, they have the tools to follow her in and just mop up.
I'm interested to see how the Riven Zac quote-unquote combo is going to go. Riven is going to have a couple issues versus Vygar if Vygar positions perfectly. If Vygar is ever out of position, I would expect Riven to get very, very snowballed quickly, and then be able to one combo. Anytime Vigar misses a stun, boom, jump on, mop up. That being said, if Vigar snowballs, Riven could find himself just sort of useless. Riven mid has issues because it's such a short lane, and because there's so many CC champions that are played there. That's not to say that it can't work, but generally, people were picking Riven. I don't even remember the champion that it was picked versus. It was a really, really popular counter pick mid lane for a while, and I'm completely drawing a blank on when you picked it. Can you think of who Riven mid was used to counter?
I think it was used to counter, like, assassins, like Zed and Kha'Zix back in the AD Assassin day.
A little bit, but there was a mage that it was picked versus. Was it Ahri? That doesn't make sense. She has too many escapes post 6. But regardless, yes, Riven mid is still a strong pick if you're versus a champion who has easily dodged CC. So let's say you were versus an Ahri. Well, you just dodge out, combo her face, and then she's either forced to ult or die. Was it Riven versus LeBlanc? That sort of makes sense, yeah, because you have free wave clear, you have free shields. It could work. Orianna?
Or Gragas? Gragas, maybe?
You're right, Gragas. Gragas is who you picked it versus. That was completely it. Before Gragas was nerfed, it was one of the best counter picks to it, because you had free wave clear, you could just sort of dash around most of his stuff, and if you went in for melee farm, you would just eat his face. And not in a sexy way.
The Zac pick I'm interested in. Zac has been falling out of favor since his blob nerfs and just his general numbers hits, but he's still extremely potent. His ult is basically a Wukong ult, except a little stronger, I think.
Wukong has a crazy, crazy damage scaling, so you do have to keep that in mind before you argue one's better than the other.
I meant for just teamfight utility. Better in terms of that. And, like you said, Blitzcrank is a risky pick, but if he grabs someone, Kate traps them, Trundle pillars them, they're not getting away.
Yeah, I like Trundle as a champion, but versus ranged champions who can just sort of be bullies like Quinn, he's not going to be able to steal that many stats. Honestly, Trundle really shines if he has a super tanky target on the enemy team that he can just ult and become almost immortal. And unless, like, I don't expect Vi to build that tanky. If she does, that would be who you'd want to ult. But no one else on the team is going to be stacking like 300 armor or something ridiculous.
Right. Quinn also has the ability to just poke, poke, poke until the cows come home with her Harrier and her Blind and just her auto attacks. So Trundle's going to really have to contend with that all lane phase long. So starting picks, Veigar with a D-ring and pot. Oops, my client crashed.
Okay, well, builds are pretty standard here. Doran's Ring on Riven and Caitlyn, so that's going to show Riven wanting to go really aggressive early, not super worried about the auto attack harass. We oftentimes do see Rivens since the changes starting Doran's Shield, but versus someone mid like this, that's pretty standard. Both junglers going for Hunter's Machete start with pots. I'm actually surprised Quinn started Boots. It's not a terrible choice, but I'm not sure how much that's really going to save you versus a Trundle. If you are playing Quinn properly, you should not be caught out by Trundle. You have your backflip, or vault I suppose it's called. And like the boots are fine, but I would have expected you trying to go something like a Doran's Blade, trying to just set down the pain really early.
What boots allow you to do, though, is Quinn's attack on Harrier has a slight delay. It's like a half a second delay. So boots lets you get into range a little less than max range, so you can get the auto attack off guaranteed. Because if you auto attack a Harrier target at max range and they just walk back 2 steps, it doesn't go off and you lose a bunch of your burst. Also, Quinn is really vulnerable to early ganks since her only reposition tool is also one of her offensive staples.
Fair enough. Bot lane, though, I really dislike the cloth armor start. The standard start bot lane is if you're playing a really aggressive poke support, you start Spell Thief's Edge. If you're playing a defensive or tanky support, you start Ruby Crystal so that you can get the really early Sightstone. I was actually playing a game early. Ooh, very nice hook coming in. Lands right onto Jinx. They get some good poke down, but nothing super large going to come from it. They just blow the pot. But yeah, as I was saying, I actually got a pre-4-minute sight stone on Thresh in one of my games earlier because we landed an early assist, and I started with it. All I needed was 400 gold. Go back, get a free sight stone. We see Vi trying for the really early gank here. We do have the stun coming in from Veigar, but it looks like she's just going to walk away. Good amount of damage on, though, and that could set up an early kill for Veigar if he's able to land a second combo. The problem is his mana cost. He's already at half mana. He's now torn between either Q farming to stack up or trying to harass. Zac mirroring that gank top lane. Zac is a little bit low and Trundle's super low. I don't agree with this. I don't see why you would fight there.
Quinn didn't panic. Quinn knew that Zac was in the bush because he used his trinket ward, his red trinket to clear it. And she baits him in. She turns around, she turns onto Trundle, she knows her damage is quite well, and just picks up the kill very confidently. And Zac doesn't really have the tools to really answer that active aggression. He can hold the tower, but he can't stop her. Vi coming around, Riven flashes out, but the stun cage goes down. I don't think they're going to get the kill, but they do put the fear of God in Riven.
And it's good that they are trying to keep this Riven down, but honestly, I don't know how well Veigar is going to be able to accomplish a full shutdown. I expect this to be a kill, though. Oh, the Q not quite connecting from Vi. That would have been a kill with the red buff.
I feel as though Veigar is going to be at such a disadvantage early and mid-game due to no AP targets that you might just want to leave him alone and let him farm and help other lanes snowball.
Good blitz grab coming in. I haven't been able to pay too much attention to it. The trap actually really working in their favor. But here's where you see, if you're grabbing in for an AD carry that doesn't have... Oh, that escape. If you're grabbing for an AD carry that doesn't have good close-range burst or dueling potential, you're just getting yourself killed. That blitz grab was great. He got the grab, got the knock-up, got the Caitlyn trap, and then they both almost died.
So Caitlyn's staying. She's planning on defending the tower, and I do not agree with that decision. With Jink Rockets, with Mantra Q, she is in danger right now, and I suspect she may go down.
At this range, she should be able to stay in experience range. My concern, though, is that she's going to try and move up a little too close.
Zac blows flash to get away from Vi. Vi is just camping mid very aggressively, and like I said, Veigar is going to have such a rough early and mid game. I'm not 100% sure if I agree with that choice. It may help other lanes snowball if she's there more, but Quinn is doing so well top, and bot lane is certainly holding their own, so I can understand the logic there.
At this point, Quinn already has her Bilgewater Cutlass finished and is almost double his CS top lane. So I would expect her to try and put the pain onto him and try and use that active as early as possible, because if she continues to get an experience or CS advantage, this is going to go so well for her. I believe her ult is up now. Yeah, her ult is up.
Cutlass is an interesting choice. I often go Bloodthirster Rush, but that's because Quinn can be played very effectively as a split pusher. She is clearly going balls to the wall, just pooping on Trundle and building to just shut him down all game long. So that's a very good choice on her part.
It'll allow her to kite more effectively with the active.
The tier on Chalice, the tier on Veigar, I am not a huge fan of. He needs a DFG early on, and furthermore, tier, I don't know, I don't think it's really worth it.
In this situation, I might almost suggest it, and my reasoning is this. He has to have early mana regen, such as a Chalice, but he's versus an AD opponent. So this is his option to scale up into the late game a little bit better, without gimping himself and wasting that magic resist. Mid lane, they actually take down Zac. Very, very good job. I'm not sure why Zac was going in there, though. His mid lane was already dead.
So, bot lane, we saw the potency of the Jinx Karma combo. Blitzcrank pulls Karma in, Karma simply turns around and cues them in the face. The snares go down, and Jinx and Karma just chase their opponents down, completely undaunted by the damage. Their chasing potential and their CC means that Caitlyn and Blitz can't really duel very much.
And this is exactly it. You need to pick a support that combos well with your AD carry, or vice versa, depending on who picks first. Caitlyn is fine. She's not a terrible AD carry by any means, but just doesn't really pair that well with Blitz.
Caitlyn is the Mario of bot lane. She's good at everything but not great at anything, and Blitz is such a spoon feeder that I feel like you really need to play like Draven, Graves. You need to play a early lane murder bully with him, otherwise it's just not worth it, I don't think. Misfortune would probably be a good choice with him. Caitlyn just isn't really a good match with him because she wants to stay back and poke and farm and poke and siege. He wants to pull people in and murder them. That's a differing play style.
Yeah, it just boils down to champion synergy, and that is something that you have to keep in mind. That doesn't mean that you want to play 50 million champions if you don't know them. We see a lot of people, especially in low elo, where it's like, pick Malphite, he counters so-and-so, or pick this, it counters that. But they don't take into account what it does for their team, how well they know the champion pick. Ooh, nice flash coming out of the box there.
Basically, comfort over counter. And there's a fun fact about that, actually. It looks like Zach is looping around, maybe. Nope, he's
just going to counter
jungling.
jungle. He's a little low for that, though. If I were to find him in this jungle, I guess they know that Vi is going back, because he did recall mid lane. But yeah, I don't agree with him doing this with this low health. Any of purple team could collapse on him.
Fun fact, they looked at the win rates of people who main one champion. And the way it went is, last place was draft non-ranked. Like, those people had the lowest win rate with their preferred champion. Next was ranked draft, and then finally blind pick was the winner because those people knew how to play against their counters. In fact, they didn't really counter pick, they just picked their champion and played it in whatever matchup. And they had the highest win rates as a result.
And that's what I always try and remind people. Care less about counter picks, care more about actually knowing how to play your champion.
We also see people go, oh my gosh, they left OP champion unbanned. I'm gonna grab them. I mean, I've only played him twice, but he's OP.
We're seeing the exact same thing top lane. Trundle and Zac are very, very low, and they're trying to fight this Quinn.
People really underestimate Quinn's burst. With her passive, with Vault, she just really murders, and Valor, offensive stats-wise, is one of the best bruisers in the game, bar none. So, she's very squishy, but she just lays down the hurt, and if you're not prepared for that, you're in for a rude surprise.
I think of it almost like a slightly ranged version of Riven. If she lands the combo, if she positions properly and doesn't just get immediately CC'd and die, she's gonna kill you.
Right, if you vault in as Valor, you use the attack speed buff, you blind them, then you have an execute on Sky Strike, you delete them, period. The counterplay is that you delete her first, which Trundle is unable to do.
Seaman in chat was mentioning synergy between Blitz and Vayne. I used to play a lot of Blitz Vayne, actually. My friend mained Vayne and I mained Blitz back in like season 2? Season 1? I don't even remember. It was a long time ago. And it's fine, but since the changes, Vayne isn't that good at dueling early. Yes, if you get a pull and she gets a condemn, it's a great combo and it works. But you have to keep in mind just the power curve. On Vayne, you pretty much want to wait till 6. It's her ult that she uses to actually duel people.
So Vi just continuing to camp mid. She doesn't need to help the other lanes. She's really picking Veigar up and dragging him back into relevancy, despite, you know, the disadvantage she's facing against Riven.
And that's exactly what they need to do at this point. Just keep Veigar safe. Keep him snowballing.
And this is sort of a nitpick. At the very beginning of the game, in all chat, Riven said, "First time Riven, I'm practicing, please don't be rude." And I'm not sure if that was a joke, but in the case it wasn't, don't give your opponents information through all chat. Don't go... For instance, I was jungling, and I stole my opponent's red buff and left the little things up. Then 2 minutes later, I see an all chat, and I have timestamps on. Oh, wow, so you had to steal my buff? Thanks, jerk. Now I had a timestamp on their red, and I was able to take it a second time. Or you'll see a jungler in the bush, and you'll go, "Hi, Zach," and then they know that you see them, and they're able to waste less time.
Mhm.
Never give your opponent info through all chat.
One of my favorite strategies as a mid laner is just play distraction. I used to do it with AP Janna. I'm recently doing it with Xerath. We actually see Zach getting caught out here. There goes his passive, and he's definitely going to die from this because no one on his team can really save him here. But yes,
Vi smites one of the blobs, just making sure he goes down.
but regardless, you need to act as a distraction if you're a mid laner who doesn't necessarily have a huge amount of kill potential. Right now I've been practicing it a little bit using Xerath, and basically I just permanently shove mid lane and I ward all around my lane. So it's like, oh, their jungler's coming. I just like sort of dance around just sort of out of their CC range and keep him there for 20-30 seconds. He then leaves, I ping it, I go ahead, push back in, and do that over and over again. It applies pressure so their mid lane can't roam, they lose a lot of CS under tower, and it keeps their jungler not ganking other lanes. I then usually tell my jungler, just like, go camp other lanes, don't bother with me. And when played properly, that can turn into huge advantages for your team, because you're essentially making the game 4v3 for the rest of the game.
So Quinn rotates from top lane. She shoves Riven out of lane with ranged auto attacks. She takes the tower, and now it looks like she's heading back top. And that's a really great thing. You'll see a lot of top laners take their opponent's tower, get a farm advantage, and then just stay top all day. And then they end up pushing, they end up getting ganked over and over, they lose their advantage. Knowing when to rotate as a top laner is extremely important.
And I like how she is cycling. She's not overstaying. She didn't stay mid and continue pushing. Just go back, get your farm. Someone asking about champions that synergize well with Vayne, so like supports. Someone already mentioned Morgana. Morgana is amazing because you remove all CC, and that allows Vayne to just go crazy. Janna, debatable. I don't like Janna with her because there's no lockdown. I prefer Nami.
The thing with Janna is that they're both lose lane win game champions, and her disengage is unparalleled. So you're basically choosing a lackluster lane phase where neither of you get any kills, but Vayne has all the tools she needs to farm, and then you're gonna like come back with a vengeance late game.
A well-played Vayne plus Morgana or Vayne plus Nami actually wins lane.
That is an excellent stun cage coming down from Veigar. He's able to drop his combo on her. Riven just dies in the face of it. Now we have Quinn coming down to pick up their blue. Quinn is just showing excellent map control right now. She's everywhere she needs to be, and she's not taking her foot off Trundle's throat at the same time. Another beautiful stun cage coming down from Veigar, chasing down Zac. Looks like Zac will be able to escape, but not unscathed. Meanwhile, we're...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you...
Canadian standoff!
This Veigar getting some good roam down, picks up a free kill onto Caitlyn, and this should be a tower if they want it. Looks like they're going to go a little aggressively, though. And they are going to take down the Blitz, but personally, I always say towers over kills. They're all really low. They might be able to just sort of sustain up here. Not Quinn. Jinx has a Bloodthirster, but now Zac is here to stop this push. Another great stun cage coming out. This Veigar is just on point.
Right, we were concerned in Vegas for the matchup if he did not position well and did not stun cage well, and he is just proving us wrong with great aplomb. So, Quinn is just cycling top, she shoves it in. Trundle is getting some farm, he's not completely starved, but he has absolutely no influence on the map. If he leaves his lane, Quinn will take the inner turret, and he knows it, and Quinn knows he knows it. And so she's able to just shove, rotate, to be with her team when she needs, and then come back and just keep her foot on Trundle's throat, which is just excellent control of top lane.
I want to point out what Purple Team is doing here. They forced everyone to come bot lane to try and defend the tower. They then proxied the wave to try and kill, then retreated to jungle, set up a gank, cycled back down bot lane, took the turret, and now they're getting dragon off of it. And that's how you manipulate advantages so that you can snowball the game. They could have just said, okay, GG, just like 5 mid, but they would have lost out on so much there. They're saying, you have to stop us, but you can't fight us. Okay, we're not here anymore, try and chase us. And then re-engaging, constantly just sort of playing that mind game of, you want to fight us, but you can't, but if you don't, you lose.
Someone in chat asked, can you smite Anivia's egg? No, you can't, because her egg is not a minion, it's coded as a champion.
It's Agnivia.
Uh-huh, it's true.
Yeah,
It's
if you
a
chat
pretty...
well in egg mode, it will say that it's coming from Eggnivia.
But yeah, Zack's bloblets are coded as minions, and so they can be smited. I think that is the only passive that works like that in the game. Every other revive passive is coded as a champion. Except for Yorick, I don't know if you can... No, that's a champion. I'm dumb.
Yeah, it's definitely a champion.
So we're seeing Blitzcrank he's in the middle of them, but everyone is just so fed at this point and so fat, they don't really care about his presence. He can knock them up, but he doesn't really get anything to stick.
Interesting. I'm assuming Caitlyn was just trying to suicide distract, but she could have stalled if that was her intention by not netting into the middle of 5 people, or 4 people.
Excellent example of Quinn's main weakness. Riven comboed in on her, stunned her, laying down damage with her passive, and Quinn was basically unable to really engage her in a meaningful way. Of course, Riven then swings mid and is taken down, but just a sign that Quinn is a pretty well-rounded champion in that way. She blows up, she gets blown up. Or she blows you up. Words are hard.
Oh, Tibbers, yes. Tibbers can be, but that's not a revive passive. It's a minion. Any minion can be smited.
So, at this point, I think Purple Team has us in the bag. It's their game to lose. I think we can talk what Blue Team could have done.
Blue Team really needed to... Well, first of all, they needed to pick a little bit better. It's not that their champions are quote-unquote bad. It's just, we already mentioned, they don't really synergize with each other. There's some problems there. In terms of gameplay, though, the Viscamp mid was very well done. They need to then respond to that, though, whether that response is for Zack to camp other lanes, for Zack to counter gank, for Zack to counter jungle. He needed to respond to that in a meaningful way. They also then need to be very careful with how they handle top lane. They kept trying to fight when they would have like 300 health. And yes, you have a gank, but you're still going to die. They're just going to attack you 2 or 3 times and you're going to be taken down. And that's just not a good trade to make. You don't want to trade kills, you want to set up advantages.
Also, I'm just an observer. I haven't really seen a meaningful Zack ult come out, and Zack ult is such a game changer that I'm disappointed I haven't seen him use it to its full potential.
He's been using it a couple times, but it's usually because he's caught out and he's trying to escape. And when you're behind, I totally understand the temptation to do that because, well, you're not going to have that many good opportunities to use it. But you do need to be careful with how you're using those skills. You need to try and save them so that you can get an advantage with them, rather than trying to just use them as a, well, I'm dead, let's try and throw down an ult.
Also, a note on Vision. Purple Team has 2 Vision wards and, 7 sight wards down on the map?
They have very good map control.
Blue Team has a trinket ward at Dragon. It's, and a Vision ward in their lower jungle.
And I believe it's Blitzcrank that just spent that. Now, he does have a Sight Stone, so it's not as though he's not building it. But I'm interested with why he is not using those free wards. I always say Sight Stone is the best gold per 10 item, because the amount of value of wards it gives you is unparalleled by the other gold generation items.
I really want to try Quinn Karma bottom lane, just seeing them work together in team fights. I want to make that happen.
Sorry, who?
Quinn and Karma.
Quinn Karma. It would be fine, yeah. But then you still have the issue of Quinn has no disengage, and Karma can't hard disengage, it's just slows in a tether.
How about you shut your mouth? Quinn is beautiful and a perfect champion.
Oh, okay.
No, nothing is wrong with Quinn, ever.
Okay. There's a lot of minions stacked up top lane. Looks like Quinn is going to pick those up. If you are either winning or behind, you need to be paying attention to how minions are pushing, how each lane is positioned, so that you're not missing that free gold. For example, that top lane, Quinn, if she was paying just a little bit more of attention, probably could have got up there a little sooner, because I didn't see any team fights that she was involved in that time, or buff steals, objectives. So I would have liked to see her up there earlier and not have lost those 5 to 10 minions. 5 to 10 minions is almost a kill worth of gold. Sorry, go ahead.
Somebody's asking, what lane does Quinn work best in, top, mid, or ADC? As an ADC, Quinn kind of comes up short, unfortunately. Her lack of range means that other lane bullies are able to punish her. Like Draven. She's good against like Vayne as an ADC, and that's about it. And a well-played Nami can essentially counter her. As a mid laner, I'm not a fan. If you want to play an AD mid, there are much better choices. Like I've said, her only method of escapes is also her main offensive tool. And her mobility is an incredibly useful as a mid laner because she needs to save bird form for fights. And so it's pretty easy to telegraph her coming. As a top laner, I really like her. She has the ability to poke down many top laners. Her range is much better as a top laner than it is as an ADC. She's a good brawler, and she's excellent at split pushing.
I remember when you made fun of my Yomu's Ghostblade Quinn.
Okay, to be fair though, you would activate it and then turn into a bird and say, I'm doing bird things and go into 5 people.
That is a complete lie.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. I remember things differently.
I think that's just revisionist history.
Okay. So at this point, there is about 15 to 18,000 gold advantage for Purple Team. They're also up 4 towers. They need to use that to try and end the game. And we have this complaint with a lot of workshop games, and I have the complaint in solo queue all the time, where people just don't know how to end games. At this point, they are so far ahead, I want to see them doing Baron. My reasoning for that is, I essentially have 3 reasons for that. Number 1, they're so far ahead that they win any team fight. So if blue team tries to fight them, they win. They also have essentially 3 AD carries. They have Quinn, Jinx, and Vi, who's melee AD carry, but still has a lot of damage, can set up those plays very quickly. Sorry, go ahead.
I want to point something out. Trundle has his Blade of the Rune King. After his Blade of the Rune King, I believe he mostly just goes full tank.
Generally, yes.
And he is now at the point where he just 1 versus 1 Quinn, both of them at full health, and with Quinn having the jump on him, and he won. And that's extremely bad for Purple Team, because Quinn and Veigar are sort of their main sources of damage, and if Trundle can just delete Quinn, and probably delete Veigar as well, they are in a pickle. They need to close this out before Blue Team can like climb back and make that goal deficit up. The longer a game goes, the less the game goal deficit means, essentially.
For sure. Now, sorry, as I was planning with the Baron setup, if they fight them, they lose, generally speaking, assuming Purple Team wards it properly and doesn't get too low from doing it. But they can kill that incredibly quickly. If they get the Baron, then it sets up a huge advantage for them to just sort of push up and end the game. And it sets up so many opportunities to end the game when you're this far ahead. Now that being said, you need to be on the same page as your team, or you can use it as the sort of Baron throw that everyone knows so well.
Zackle goes down on a Veigar and Vi. Veigar cleanses it and flees. Blitzcrank actually gets a very good grab off, pulls Vi into the tower. Vi uses her ult to nearly kill Blitz, but it's not enough. Now they're just chasing down Veigar. Quinn is split pushing top, but Veigar's alone 1 versus 3. But Karma and Jinx are swinging around, so this is about to become a skirmish in the jungle very quickly.
Mm-hmm. And while Blue Team is doing a great job of making picks for themselves and setting up plays, we do have to remember that a lot of that ability to get back into the game is provided by Purple Team not snowballing advantages further. They haven't taken inhibitors, they haven't taken Baron. Their warding, while still good, could be a little better. They could be sort of paying attention to those wards and using them to set up plays. Instead, they're sort of doing the whole ARAM thing. They have 3 people mid with no tank. Jinx is off like taking some jungle and Vi is dead. If they get engaged on the 3 who are mid, those people are probably dead, assuming they play it properly. So Purple Team needs to sort of cool their heels for a moment, get back on the same page, and try and end the game. Whereas Blue Team needs to keep setting up picks like this. Their warding has improved slightly. They have a few more down, which is great, but warding is a team effort, so they need to be sort of communicating the wards they need and what plays they need to set up the game. Assuming they set up those plays, they need to be focusing down one target who is alone. They cannot team fight at this point. They're too far behind, so they need to be able to let's say, find Quinn alone, as you mentioned before, and having Trundle duel her. They need to be able to get onto Vygar while they're not all stunned.
And here's where wards are essential. They need to be warding their 5-minute buffs, red and blue. They need to be covering the Baron pit with wards. They need to just have the vision to take someone out when they're alone.
Riven caught a little bit close there, but purple team doesn't respond very quickly. Ooh, actually, beautiful stun cage, but he decides not to go for it. If he reacted faster, he could have just used his ult and killed her.
So purple team does not have Jinx, and blue team is sort of... I'm not sure what blue team is doing. They are not on the same page. I believe Zach was going, excellent, we can engage. And Trundle and Riven were like, I want to farm and buy. And that would have been a good engage. I agree with Zach's instinct there. But now it's too late. They are 5, and they are shoving mid.
And blue team's just way too spread out. They're not actually here to defend the turret. So with this number of AD carries, with the amount of attack damage they have, they're going to be able to melt these objectives. Towers, Baron, Dragon, Inhibitors, and of course the Nexus.
So Trundle goes down. Blue team is just scattered. Purple team is rolling forward.
And it sounds like the game is over now. So I just want to thank everyone for participating in this match. Brian is going to start the matchmaking for the next room, so if you get an invite from someone named Felvrick, that is the next game, so please accept it. We are going to be starting our RP giveaway now as well, as it's just approaching 3 p.m. It's around 2:30 now, but we'll start it early.
Oh, Pro Senpai, so generous.
I am the most generous person you deserve. So not very generous.
Yeah, that's quite the qualifier there.
Exactly. So let's just do a quick commentation on item builds here. I'll have you go over that quick, please.
Sure. So Riven has Bloodthirster, Last Whisper, cooldown boots, armor vest. That's a very balls to the wall Riven build. I would have liked to see a little bit of survivability on her, but worked out quite well. A Hydra might have been better than the Bloodthirster, because Hydra provides more stacks, assuming you cannot stack the Bloodthirster, which she was 3 and 8 and 1, so presumably she would not be able to do so.
It's also worth mentioning that Hydra on Riven, it's an auto attack reset, so it increases your burst. Even if the AD on it is less, it allows you to do a quicker burst combo and reset everything very, very easily. It also improves your wave clear so that she could have become the split pusher to deal with Quinn.
Trundle has Bork, tank boots, Randuins, very standard. Kate, Bloodthirster, Zeal. She just did not get very much gold that game, but it looks like she was going for a static Shiv and then presumably a GA or some other core ADC item. Blitzcrank has no real finished items. He has the Sightstone and a Glacial Shroud, and Boots 1. So he didn't have much gold. A gold generation item really would have helped him out there. And like we said, getting the early cloth armor didn't do much for him. A Ruby Crystal would have been better, or a gold gen item.
He actually never built a gold gen item. And while I do strongly suggest doing the Ruby Crystal start, you still buy a gold gen item right after you finish your Sightstone. I would have expected to see a Talisman of Ascension on him. It would have given him 20% CDR to add more hooks. It would have given him an amazing active to either collapse onto lone targets or to disengage fights that they didn't want. It just would have provided so much more for him rather than trying to go into a Glacial Shroud, which I'm assuming would be built into Gauntlet, or he could have gone for a Frozen Heart. That's the item. Frozen Heart would have been fine versus double 80 carry, but you still need that movement speed from the Talisman. I just don't agree with that choice, personally.
Right, exactly. As for Zach has his Spirit Stone still. He did not upgrade it, and instead rushed to Spirit Visage, and I do not agree with that. I like the Sightstone on him. That's a really nice pickup, because people really need to be more proactive about warding. That being said, Spirit Visage, they really nerfed Zach's blobs. It's way harder to pick up now, especially in the chaos of a team fight. And the stats on an Ancient Golem is so essential to Zach's team fight potential. So I just really am not a fan of the Spirit Visage rush. I would have preferred to see Ancient Golem come out, then Boots 2, then the Spirit Visage. Especially as a jungler, you need the mobility. As for Purple Team, Jinx has the standard ADC build, no complaints there. Quinn, Like I said, I like to see Bloodthirster on Quinn come out early, but the Bork was a good choice. We discussed that during the game. No real complaints there. It looks like she was going for an eye edge. Vagar, we discussed the tier. Pro hates tier in most circumstances, but had to agree it was a good pickup here. He did not finish the tier into a good item, which I think was a great choice. Instead, he got his DFG and went full AP. So, good choices from Vagar there, no complaints. Karma. Karma's items, I agree with all of them. Good items. Talisman is great. Locket is great. Ruby Sightstone, Chalice, all good choices. And
I'm actually going to disagree.
Okay.
Locket has no armor now. Look at the enemy team, they have no AP.
Oh, that's right. They stripped that from it, didn't they?
Yeah, if I were them, I would have been building probably a Randuin's.
That's a good point. See, this is why it's so great to have a platinum player and not my scrub butt.
Like, honestly, Karma had no boots, so I would have finished Source Boots or a Tank Boot, or even Boots 5. Like, you can build whatever boots you want, but I would have built Boots 2 first, and then instead of the Locket, I probably would have gone either Randuin's if we needed a tank on their team, and they definitely did. They needed someone who was pretty beefy. Or you could have gone towards more damage with something like a Leandry's, something like a Void Staff.
That being said, Mantra E plus Talisman means that Karma has a lot of built-in mobility, but boots are still great for the stats, if not the movement speed.
Source Boots just keeps your damage relevant.
And then Vi, Ancient Golem, Black Cleaver, Tank Boot, Seal. So she was building for Vi Force after her Cleaver. So that's a very aggressive build. They have nerfed Vi's damage if she goes straight tanky. And she was clearly able to absorb all the damage she needed. So I don't really have any complaints with her build. For MVPs, I'm going to have to call Vagar as Purple Team MVP. His stun cages were beautiful. His burst damage, sublime. He was at a disadvantage in lane and overcame it. So I'm calling Vagar as MVP for Purple Team.
Yeah, I'm totally down with that. On the split side, I really like how Trundle was sort of able to farm and get back into the game. I had a lot of issues with his decisions to fight, but in the long run, he sort of did his job. I was okay with it.
I would have to say Trundle or Riven are contenders for MVP. I'm going to have to go with Trundle because this is a workshop game, and we talk about attitude a lot. And Trundle kept his head up all game. He did not give up. He didn't say, GG, my team sucks. He really kept in it, and he turned around and he was able to just murder Quinn at the end of the game. He was Blue Team's great white hope at the end. And so I'm going to have to call Trundle as Blue Team MVP.